Real prison escapes caught on camera. Throughout the history of prisons, criminals have made numerous attempts to escape. This age-old desire for freedom has led to countless breakouts, some more successful than others. Although many attempts fail, there have been instances where escapees have managed to flee undetected, causing chaos and concern among authorities. Step into the shadows as we embark on a journey into the world of real-life prison escapes caught on camera. Throughout history, many have attempted to break free from the confines of prison, but only a select few have succeeded. The insatiable desire for freedom has driven these individuals to take desperate measures to achieve their ultimate goal. So settle in and get ready to witness the most thrilling and enigmatic prison escape stories ever recorded. Off the grid. In some cases, one may have to rely on intuition and take impromptu actions without much pre-planning, thinking, or careful deliberation. Such was the case with the two inmates assigned to garbage duty outside the high fences of the prison. As they went about their mundane task, they caught each other's eyes and exchanged a fleeting glance. A sense of mutual understanding passed between them, and they nodded in silent agreement. They made their move, taking advantage of the opportunity that presented itself. They broke into a sudden sprint, their hearts pounding with adrenaline as they headed for the fence. The supervising guard, taken aback by the suddenness of their escape attempt, stood rooted to the spot in disbelief. He fumbled for his radio, his voice trembling as he called in their escape. The two inmates ran as if their lives depended on it, their eyes fixed on the horizon. They left the prison grounds behind them with no idea of where they were heading or what awaited them. Once they were out of sight, they split up, each going their own way. They knew that they had to rely on their wits to evade the authorities and regain their freedom. They hid in barns, apartment complexes, and other places they deemed safe. They were constantly on the move, never staying in one place for too long, always looking over their shoulders. It was only a matter of time before the long arm of the law caught up with them. They were apprehended a few days later, exhausted and hungry, but relieved that their ordeal was over. Beyond the barrier, the desire for freedom can drive some criminals to go to extreme lengths to escape the confines of prison. However, others take a more simplistic approach, like the two inmates who opted to move part of a wall. With the cunning of a fox, they removed a couple of cinder blocks from the wall and squeezed through the narrow openings, leaving their dingy prison cells behind. Once outside, they sprinted toward the towering 25-foot-high razor wire fence, determined to make their escape. They had covered the holes in the wall with posters, making it appear as though the wall was intact. In addition, they'd fashioned dummies out of pillows and blankets to make it seem as though they were still in their cells. Their ruse had bought them valuable time, and they had managed to evade detection until the local resident blew their cover. Despite their ingenuity and resourcefulness, the two men's freedom was short-lived. A sharp-eyed resident spotted tracks in the mud near a nearby creek and alerted the authorities. Within a few hours, the escapees were caught and returned to their cells, their dream of freedom shattered. Rapid cognition, rapid execution. Persistence can pay off, especially when it comes to escaping from prison. After several failed attempts over the course of a day, one determined jailbird decided to bide his time and wait for the perfect moment to make his move. He knew that he would have to act quickly when the opportunity presented itself, and he was prepared to take the risk. That opportunity came when the police moved away from the patrol car to process his transfer. As the garage door began to close, the quick-thinking inmate saw his chance and bolted toward the opening. With lightning-fast reflexes, he performed a feat of speed limbo that would have impressed even the most nimble of athletes. He managed to squeeze through the tiny gap just as the door closed behind him, leaving the police officers stunned and confused. It took the cops several precious minutes to realize what had happened and get outside to begin the search. By this time, the inmate had already covered a significant amount of ground, leaving the pursuing officers struggling to keep up. Even a 2-hour search by sniffer dogs was unsuccessful in locating him. For more than a day, the escaped convict was lucky to enjoy his freedom before his luck ran out, and he was eventually caught by the authorities. The power of appeal. Picture this. You find yourself locked up in a dimly lit jail cell, your mind racing with thoughts of escape. As you anxiously pace back and forth, you suddenly catch the eye of a guard standing just outside your cell. And to your surprise, you noticed a glint of admiration in their eyes as they stare back at you. In that moment, you realize that your gift of the gab might just be your ticket to freedom. With a sly smile and a charming word, you begin to work your magic on the guard, slowly but surely winning them over. Their eyes widen with interest fast, their guards starting to drop as you continue to work your charm. And before you know it, they're holding the keys to your escape in their trembling hand, all thanks to your silver tongue. When you're not a criminal mastermind, you have to play to your strengths, and for you, it just happens to be the power of persuasion. With the right words and a little bit of luck, you just might charm your way out of this tight spot and back into the open air of freedom. Hit and run. A group of prisoners were being escorted back to their cells through the garage. However, one of the prisoners was seen lingering and soon after walked out of sight behind a transport van. The guards, oblivious to his disappearance, continued on their way. The prisoner saw an opportunity and took it. With the keys conveniently sitting in the ignition, all that was left for him to do was turn the key and start the van. It was almost as if the universe was begging him to make a run for it. He stepped on the gas, his heart racing with excitement, and crashed through the garage door. For a moment, he felt the thrill of freedom, but his luck soon ran out. The van careened into some nearby trees and he was arrested on the spot. It was an ironic twist of fate. Most people steal cars to end up in jail, not the other way around. Handcuffs. Luck sometimes smiles even on the dim-witted criminals. A woman was arrested for theft and placed in a holding cell at a police station located nearby a motel. Left alone to secure her release and organize her transportation back home, she struggled to break free from the tight cuffs anchoring her to the wall while checking her text messages on her phone. Against all odds, she managed to wriggle her hands free from the cuffs. She spotted the keys to the cell dangling from a hook on the wall and seized the opportunity to make her escape. With the keys, she opened the emergency exit and quietly slipped out the back door unnoticed by the authorities. Her luck didn't last long as she was recaptured an hour later. She had made the mistake of returning to the same motel where she was arrested earlier in the day. The motel staff immediately recognized her and called the police. It's often said that there's no cure for stupidity, and this woman's actions were a testament to that. Bulldozer drive. Although Denmark is known for its famous Viking heritage and Lego bricks, the country is not well known for mass prison escapes. However, 25 years ago, a TV film crew received an anonymous tip about a planned protest outside a prison in Copenhagen and went there to document the event. But what the film crew witnessed was beyond their wildest imagination. A bulldozer slammed into the brick wall of the jail and knocked it down, with prisoners streaming out of the hole like ants fleeing from their nest. The escapees could be seen running down the street, laughing and cheering, celebrating their newfound freedom. The film crew were arrested on suspicion of having prior knowledge of the escape and failing to notify the police. 13 inmates escaped in total, some of them serving long jail terms for violent crimes and murder. Only 3 of them were ever caught, and the others remained at large, living as fugitives. This escape became one of the most notorious prison breaks in Danish history, leaving authorities embarrassed and shaken. Careful plan. The mere thought of breaking out of a high-security prison sends chills down most people's spines. But for some, the desire for freedom is so overwhelming that they will stop at nothing to make their escape. The most successful prison breaks require meticulous planning and impeccable timing, as even the smallest misstep can spell disaster. One such escape involved a trio of inmates who defied all odds and pulled off an audacious getaway. It seemed impossible to gain access to the plumbing shafts behind the prison walls, but these inmates found a way in. They had discovered air vents that were large enough for a man to squeeze through, located near the floor. With ropes made of bed sheets and nerves of steel, they made their way through the dark and claustrophobic shafts towards freedom. And their plan didn't stop there. They had a getaway van waiting with fresh clothes and a bottle of Jack Daniels for a celebratory drink. The whole operation took only 8 minutes, and they even had the audacity to use a cell phone to film their escape from their cell. But their moment of glory was short-lived. They may have gained 15 minutes of fame, but it cost them an additional 15 years behind bars. In the end, their daring escape serves as a reminder that even the most secure prisons can be breached with the right amount of planning and determination. Risky escape. This daring teenager proved that bravery comes from within. After being taken into custody for fighting at school, he found himself alone in an interrogation room with only his thoughts for company. Within seconds, he decided to take matters into his own hands and leapt fearlessly out of a second-story window that was a daunting 16 feet above the ground. Despite the risks, the teenager's resilience proved to be impressive as he bounced back up from the fall and made a quick escape from the scene. It took the officer 14 minutes to notice his absence, and when he did, he was astonished by the sight of an empty room. The teenager was later found at his friend's house 3 hours after his miraculous escape. While he may have evaded the law this time, he will soon realize that the consequences of his actions will catch up with him. As the saying goes, you can run, but you can't hide. Out the window. The power of positive thinking can be a formidable tool. This particular inmate had devised a relatively simple escape plan. While he was being processed in a detention center, a fellow inmate was to create a distraction, allowing him to make his getaway. He was sizing up the situation. He noticed an extremely small window and began repeating the phrase, "think thin," over and over again in his mind. Summoning every ounce of courage, he took a running leap and dove through the window. Waiting outside was his girlfriend, who whisked him away in their getaway car. They were like a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde, living their best lives on the run. Unfortunately, their streak came to an abrupt end 26 days later when they were discovered living in an abandoned house in the next state after an anonymous tip-off. The warden was not amused, and as a result, he implemented extra security measures in the prison, including the installation of locking mechanisms on all windows, something that should have been done from the outset. And that concludes our journey through the world of real prison escapes caught on camera. We hope you enjoyed these incredible stories of perseverance, determination, and the unquenchable thirst for freedom. Thank you for joining us today, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and stay tuned for our next adventure.